Hostetter, director of Integral Boulder, or Boulder Integrál.
Great.
And formerly a lawyer who moved here to, maybe it's your word now.
Yeah.
Why did you move here and how you came about Boulder Integrál?
Well, Mary and I came here with our 3 kids in order to be part of the Integral movement and also to move to Boulder to start really another life together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of our goals in moving here was to get into a more expansive state of consciousness,
mm-hmm.
and also see what we could create.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that happens is that you get lonely. You want people to talk to, and want people who get who you are and who you can create with. And one of the beauties of hanging around integral people is that gets a lot easier. The conversations can be more candid. The business is easier. People are generally trustworthy. You know, they're at a high level of, in a lot of different ways. Not to say that we're complete in all of our levels and lines of development. There's always some things that have to be worked on, but generally it's good.
Mm-hmm. And when did you arrive here?
This will be our 3rd year.
Third year
here.
already.
So we're really just kind of getting started.
But you've been in Integral for a long time, haven't you?
Well, my personal interest started with it, like many people. I read Brief History of Everything by Ken Wilber, which is his book that is really the kind of the summation of sex ecology and spirituality, the shorter version of the history of consciousness. And that was a very impactful book. It was explained a lot of things. It expressed things that I was working on personally better. I could really, working a lot on the structures of consciousness, I was interested in how Ken expressed it and his answers to a lot of questions that I had. So it was a very impactful book. And I guess that was maybe 10 years ago, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and what have happened since you arrived and set up Boulder Integrál? How do you see it from inside?
Well, I came and was pretty much an insider into the Integral movement right away. I was hired by the then CEO of the Integral Institute to be the company's lawyer, which is a perspective in which you see a lot of the challenges that organizations have. It's a place where you see what conflicts are arising and also what the opportunities are. And so that was the initial exposure. And then Jeff and I and Namali, Jason, some others got together with the idea of founding an Integral Center, Boulder Integrál. And really the purpose of that was to see whether or not we could draw an integral community or find a place to be able to stabilize this type of consciousness, which is an ongoing project. You know, a company that's just been a couple years old is always, as you know, in starting your own, it's always it's a little fire that needs to be very well tended in order for it to survive. And so we're in just the very early stages of things. So I think one of the challenges that we have here, both personally and collectively, is to find a way in which Integral is going to be stabilized in the world. And that means not only in interior consciousness and in our intersubjective space, which is the dialogue and integral speak that we have, but also in institutions and behavior. And I think that things tend to arise, if you know the integral model, starting in the upper left with the individuals and working then trying to find people to work with who you share a common bond of understanding with. And right now we're in the lower right quadrant trying to set up structures that are going to be sustainable, of which the Integral Academy in Budapest is one of the great examples around the world. There's really only 6 or 7 right now that are really in existence, and they're all in a fledgling form. So I guess one of the things that I wanted to say to the people of Hungary is to go after it. If you have some sort of a dream, I don't think that at this particular stage that there's anything that's a mistake, that there's anything that is not useful, anything that's not helpful. such an early phase, a failure is as good as a success, as long as it's held lightly, that we see it, that we learn from it, that we are willing to share with one another our experiences, and also it creates a real obligation to show up well, to show up in a way that is our fullest capacity, our highest level of character, and with our highest lines of development, with the best parts of all of us, the most expansive parts. And that's a challenge every day, to be able to live into that and not go back to an old way of being. So if there's anything I would say to you would be to continue to work. Sure. So the question is how Boulder Integral and Ken are related. Ken Wilbur is, a genius, and he's the philosopher that has really been the founder of the integral movement, certainly in the 20th century. So all of us have if we were to have a diagram where we would have a relationship, all of us would have some sort of finger on Ken, if not just personally. If we were having a little structure where we would all have talk about our affinity, we would have some touchstone on him. So that's a very important role in terms of creating the vocabulary that we all have, and a sense of commonality with our physical or relationship. It's just a friendship relationship. He was at our center just a couple of weeks ago and came out and presented and did a beautiful job. He and Jeff are working on the incubator. He has been, exceptionally generous and open, and to come over, and many of his core students are members of our organization, and so that's probably the primary relationship that we have.
So I heard that you are writing a book.
Right, I am. Yeah.
And I wonder, what is that? About what do you write? When it will come out? Tell me a little bit about that.
Who knows when it's going to come out? I'm working on it now, about 4 hours a day.
Oh,
and trying to get a couple thousand words in a day. So a book is a big project. This happens to be a novel, and it's a retelling of the hero's quest. I have a character by the name of Charlie Smithson, who goes on a series of adventures leading to his experience of enlightenment. So the book is about his process of going through these stages of living and dying to get to this point out in the wilderness where he has this experience. So that's essentially what the book is about.
So maybe we will once see it in a Hollywood movie screen.
Let's hope.
Because it
we can always hope for the best. That would be great.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so one of the questions that just came up for those is about the writing process and what makes me or other people want to write books. I think everybody has a book in them. Everybody has a desire to express their beauty, truth, and goodness to the world, and to leave something behind that's larger than themselves. So that's one of the motivating factors in doing it. The reality of writing a book is just god-awful. It's to think that it's really like a brisk little romp through some, fun psychological space is not that way at all. It's in my case, it's requiring a real commitment, requires discipline. I'd like to say that it's a lot of fun, but I sit there with a stopwatch and have to have it's more like training. And I think that there's a level of commitment that happens, and then I think when the universe sees that you're committed, things start to happen. And that's really kind of a summation, kind of my process. That it's that there's an alchemy of effort. That when the effort shows up, then the inspiration shows up afterwards.